You're listening to Tequila Podcast.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Simon Diavanov from the Black Market International, and today on a TQcast exclusive video review, we're going to take a look at Dark Void for the Sony PlayStation 3. Now, first of all, it's developed by Airtight Games, which are the makers of Crimson Skies. Crimson Skies, if you ever owned an original Xbox and had Xbox Live, or even played locally, I mean, this was one of the craziest, most innovative, airplane combat games you could find out there. It was just totally fun. It had amazing evasion techniques, just a great story, upgrade systems, shops, everything, and it all took place in, 1920s, 1930s, that era. And very stylistic, very, very cool game. So anyways, Airtight Games, about, a year and a half, 2 years ago, announced that they were going to be working on a game that's a fully 3D shooter. And fully 3D meaning that you can not only, be on land, but you can be in the air, and you can take vertical cover and horizontal cover and shoot down and shoot up. And, pretty much Gears of War, Uncharted, but you can use everything around you. You can use the entire environment. Now, about 2 years ago when this game was first announced, this sounded like, wow, this is what the current generation of games is going to be. It's finally realizing the entire environment, not just looking at amazing scenery, but being able to fly up there and shoot down at an enemy, or shooting up at an enemy from the ground level. So the premise for this game is amazing. And to be honest, on the concept, it does deliver. You can fly pretty much anywhere in sight on the main game, and you do fight enemies that are in the air, and you do go up to high levels and shoot at enemies down on the ground. Does the game execute as well? Well, I'll get to that in a moment. But let's start off with the most important part: presentation and story. Okay, let me tell you about the story. Okay, the story is awesome. All right, you're trapped in the Bermuda Triangle, and you see mythology of ancient beings that develop this cybernetic, very advanced technology, similar to Mass Effect. It's got some of the Mass Effect, like humans encounter this alien technology, and that's how you got Nikola Tesla there, which was a real inventor. He's in the game, portrayed in the game as a guy who makes this jetpack for you, and amongst other things. So the storyline is very engaging. From the first 10 minutes of the game, you're intrigued by the storyline, and it makes you want to continue. So story is very cool. Anything in the Bermuda Triangle or any myths tied to real life myths are very interesting. The presentation of the game is very cool. As you can see, it's got some high-tech fonts mixed with ancient technology. Once again, it reminds me of the Metroid Prime series, the Chozo Ruins, things like that. Anytime you mix high-tech with ancient, I'm a big fan of that, personally. So, on those fronts, it delivers. Dark Void, you turn it on, you look in the options menu, you start the game, you see the opening cinematic, everything is very cool looking. It's a very inviting concept. Alright folks, so the moment of truth is here, the Michela rating for Dark Void for the PlayStation 3. So the first thing to mention, presentation, okay? Visual styles, the menus, the fonts, the character design, the atmosphere, the environment, waterfalls, mountains, smoke, fog, everything your surroundings, the game looks great, okay? It's somewhere between Uncharted 1 and Uncharted 2. And I say Uncharted because many parallels to Uncharted, okay? Same controls, pretty much same types of locales, you're in a jungle for the first third of the game. And if you want to compare it to a game very closely, it's Uncharted. I mean, you look at the area you've got going on here, forest, jungle. It looks beautiful, okay? It looks definitely, current gen PlayStation 3, graphics. The gameplay itself, okay? Traversing the world, climbing mountains, going through caves, going through catacombs, looking at the villages, everything, ground combat, taking cover, shooting at the enemies, jumping, climbing, all that stuff works great, okay? It works like it should. It works like a third-person shooter should work at this point. However, the flagship feature of this game, flying and aerial combat, don't work, okay? I mean, they have, Airtight Games have created a game where you can fly anywhere you want, as long as it's within the constraints of the level. So you can fly upside down and shoot at an enemy if you want. Is it fun? Does it work? Does it make you enjoy the game? No to all of the above. It is simply not only frustrating, but just not fun and not enjoyable to have a 10-minute aerial combat scene where you're shooting at flying saucers that you can barely hit, okay, because they're tiny until they come right into your face, and at that point they're behind you. You have to do a 180-degree spin to just see them, and by the time you've turned around, they're behind you already. So pretty much take the worst bits of an Ace Combat game and put them into this game, you're not flying a plane, but it feels like you're flying a 1930s airplane, The enemies have more mobility than you. The enemies are faster than you in the air, more powerful than you in every way. So the fact that the game is about this guy that has a jetpack. Okay, who cares? Everybody has jetpacks in the Dark Void. Okay, everyone has jetpacks. Enemies can fly faster than you. Enemies can fly better than you. They're more, agile in the air. They can, zoom in and out, left and right, out of sight. And you can't really do any of that. You're very limited, and what you're limited to is just not a fun experience. So, pretty much the main concept of the game just falls flat. But what the game does well, it does very well. But what the game does bad, it does very bad. I kind of feel, in some ways, that the game was made by different teams. Like one team did the ground combat that's very tight, very sharp, very accurate, and then someone else did the aerial combat, and it's just it feels totally disconnected. It feels like two different games. So for that, I mean, the game straight up loses a point for that right there. My wishes, I would make the enemies not be as powerful as you. I would make the enemies not have the flying capabilities that you do, okay? If you want to have enemies have jetpacks, that's fine, but give them primitive jetpacks. Give them lower tech jetpacks, okay? You're the main character. You are, not to spoil anything, but you are like a savior, you're this hero in the game. But what makes you special than anyone else? Nothing, because, you can't even fly as high as some of these enemies. So, pretty much that's the only thing I would change. I mean, the game has a few bugs and glitches, the audio kind of cuts out sometimes, but nothing to really worry about. It's any game at this point that is so ambitious is going to have a few glitches. But for the most part, it was a fun experience, except for anything in the air. And when you have a game that's the point, is to be flying in a jetpack, and that's not fun, then what does that tell you? So my final score for Dark Void, developed by Airtight Games, published by Capcom for the Sony PlayStation 3, is 3 michelas out of 5. Definitely a rental. I would not recommend that anyone spend $60 on this game. If you can get it at a bargain bin for $30, go ahead, get some trophies, look into some of Nolan North's good voice acting, and, look at cool characters, fun times, but, the aerial combat, hopefully if there's a Dark Void 2, they'll perfect the aerial combat, because right now it is something that'll make you turn this game off. So Dark Void, 3 michelas out of 5. I'm Simon DI. Catch me on bmitv.com or tqcast.com, and we'll see you guys next time.